Do you have a dream so big that it terrifies you? A book you want to write? A business you want to start? A life you want to live? But every time you sit down to begin, you freeze. Your chest feels heavy. Your mind whispers, "It's too big, tomorrow or later." And so, days slip away. Weeks vanish. And that dream? It just sits there mocking you. You may think this is laziness. It's not. It's a battle you cannot win, until you learn a secret trick from a spider. Yes, the spider. Long ago, in the deep heart of Africa, the sky god, Anansi, held all the world's stories in a golden box. The animals had no tales, no songs, no laughter. But one tiny spider, Anansi, dared to ask for them. Anansi gave him an answer. Not with a smile, not with kindness, but with a chilling command. Bring me the impossible. And in the silence that followed, Anansi whispered a promise to himself. I will not run. I will not wait. I will find a way. What happened next is not just a folktale. It is the blueprint to breaking free from procrastination. Stay with me, because if you hear this to the end, you may never look at your own struggles the same way again. Procrastination isn't laziness. It feels heavier. It's like standing at the foot of a wall so high you can't even see the top. You want to climb. You ache to climb. But your legs don't move. Instead, you wait. You tidy your desk. You scroll your phone. You do small, meaningless things just to avoid the weight of the big thing. That's the silent pain of procrastination. You're not lazy. You're trapped. Anansi knew this pain. He was small. No claws, no fangs, no power. Just a spider in a world of lions and pythons. When Anansi gave him his list, it wasn't a challenge. It was a wall. Bring me Onini the python. Bring me Osibo the leopard. Bring me Mabaro the hornets. Bring me Moesha, the invisible fairy. The words fell heavy as stone. Anansi stared at them, and the silence inside him was the same silence you feel when you stare at your dream. Not I don't care. But how? Where do I even begin? Days passed. He moved, but not toward the task. He found excuses. He chased flies. He weaved small webs. Anything but the list. But procrastination doesn't vanish when you ignore it. It grows. It waits. Until something snaps. Anansi's voice echoed like thunder. Bring them all, or remain nothing. And the sky god turned away. Anansi trembled. His 8 legs shook against the earth. The other animals laughed behind him. A spider? Against python? Against leopard? He will die before he begins. Anansi pretended not to hear. But inside, shame cut deep. He walked home, dragging his body slowly. His wife, also, watched him. You asked for the sky god stories. And now you sit in silence. He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. Anansi woke each morning and looked at the list. Python. Leopard. Hornets. Fairy. He whispered excuses. Too hot today. Too many eyes watching. I'll try tomorrow. He picked at his web. He watched clouds pass. And at night, he told himself, tomorrow will be better. But tomorrow never came. His children grew hungry. His wife grew restless. The village began to whisper, the spider has failed. The stories will never be ours. And inside Anansi's chest, shame grew heavier. He hated himself. He hated the list. He even hated the dream that once burned so brightly. Does that sound familiar? That sinking feeling when the thing you once wanted most becomes the thing you fear the most? That was Anansi's prison. Until the day came when hunger clawed at his belly, and his children cried for food. And he realized if he stayed still, he would lose everything. This was his crisis. And in that breaking point, Anansi made a vow. If I cannot be strong, then I will be cunning. If I cannot climb the wall, I will trick the wall into lowering itself. Anansi chose his first wall. He chose the most terrifying one, Onini the python. He crept through the trees, his 8 legs trembling against the cold earth. Onini was a river of muscle and scales. His body was a coil that could crush an elephant. From his perch high in the branches, his eyes flicked down. They were black pits of pure, ancient pride. Onini watched the tiny spider approach. His voice rumbled through the leaves, a low, dangerous sound. "Little Anansi, what brings you to my shade? Have you come to be swallowed?" Anansi's legs felt like wet sand, but he forced himself to stand tall. "Not at all, great Onini," Anansi said, his voice shaking just a little. "I only came because of something the villagers said. They say you are not as long as this stick." Anansi held out a thin, crooked branch. It was no longer than his own arm. A low hiss, full of angry amusement, filled the air. "Shorter? Me?" Onini's tail flicked, breaking a branch. "Foolish spider. I am the longest creature in all the land, a river of a snake. Watch me." The great python began to uncoil, his body rippling like water. He stretched his massive form against the crooked stick. Anansi's hands tightened on the stick. His knuckles were white. He had to keep the python's attention. "Not yet, not yet." Anansi cried out, his voice a frantic whisper. "Hold still, mighty one. You have to be straight, completely straight, so I may measure you properly." Onini, blinded by his own ego, took a moment to straighten his entire body. It was a long, slow motion. His scales scraped against the dirt. He stretched out, straight as an arrow, right next to the stick. This was Anansi's moment. The trick wasn't the stick. The trick was in the waiting. It was in the pause. Anansi had hidden a thick, coiled vine in the tall grass. He scurried forward, his heart pounding in his tiny chest. He wrapped the vine around the python's tail, and then he moved faster than he had ever moved before. He tied the middle, and then the head. The python's eyes widened in dawning horror. He thrashed, a river gone mad, but it was too late. He was a prisoner of his own pride. Anansi scrambled back to a safe distance, his legs shaking with a new kind of energy. The energy of an impossible victory. He had done it. Not with strength. Not with force. But by turning ego into a trap. And that felt far more powerful. That's the trap of overthinking. Stretching the problem out until it reveals its weakness. Anansi looked at the list. Python was done. One wall had fallen. But now, he faced the next one. Osibo the leopard. The leopard's growl was like thunder rolling over the mountains. His teeth gleamed like polished ivory. His paws, as big as a human's hand, left imprints in the red earth. Anansi knew he couldn't outrun him. He couldn't outfight him. So he decided to outweight him. He chose a path Osibo often walked and began to dig. For hours, Anansi worked in silence. He pushed dirt with his tiny legs. He carried pebbles away one by one. His muscles burned. Sweat dripped from his brow. The sun beat down on his small body. This wasn't a trick of the mind. This was raw, difficult labor. He felt the old frustration creep back in. His mind whispered, "This is too much." But he remembered the feeling of shame from the village, and he kept digging. He made the pits so deep that even moonlight would not reach the bottom. He covered the top with branches so thin they would snap under a bird. He covered those branches with leaves. He hid every single pile of dirt, leaving no sign he had been there. And then, he waited. The hours stretched into a long, quiet agony. Every snapping twig made his heart leap. Every distant roar made him freeze. And then he heard it. The heavy, confident thud of Osibo's paws. The sound grew louder and louder, a slow, deliberate march. Anansi held his breath. He hid behind a rock, his body tense. The thudding stopped, right beside the trap. Anansi's tiny heart hammered against his ribs. Had the leopard seen it? Had all his hard work been for nothing? Silence stretched. And then, Osibo's voice, a low rumble of pure arrogance. "What is this foolish stillness? There is a trap here." Anansi felt a wave of cold fear. He was done. But just as he was about to give up, Osibo laughed. A spider's web? A fool's pit. The roar shook the ground. "This is a joke. No one can trap the great Osibo." and with a final, contemptuous step he fell. He roared as he tumbled into darkness. The sound of his growls slowly faded into a helpless cry from the bottom of the pit. Anansi peered over the edge, trembling with exhaustion and relief. He had done it again, not with speed, but with patience. He had won by doing the silent, difficult work when no one was watching. That's the grind of prep work, digging a pit no one sees until it pays off. Next came the hornets, a swarm of living fire, 1,000 tiny spears. Their stings could bring a creature 10 times Anansi's size to its knees. He approached their nest with a shaking heart. This was not a test of strength or patience, it was a test of trust. Anansi had to make them believe a lie. And in this moment, a lie was his only weapon. He found a hollow gourd and carefully filled it with water. Then he poured a little bit over his head and over the leaves of a nearby bush. He scurried toward their hive. Mabaro. Brothers and sisters, he cried out, his voice high with panic. The storm is coming. I saw the sky god's angry face. It will rain fire and water. You'll drown in your nest. Hide in my gourd, quickly. The hornet's buzz grew louder, a sound like 1,000 tiny needles. A scout hornet flew close to his face. Storm? We feel no storm, little spider. You lie. Anansi's heart pounded. His whole plan was about to fall apart. He had to sell the lie. He had to make them believe. Look, he yelled, pointing at the drops on the leaves. My head is already wet. It has begun. Don't you feel it? The hornets buzzed with confusion. They looked at each other. They looked at the wet leaves. They looked at the little spider, who seemed genuinely terrified. And then, just as the scout hornet was about to sting him, he poured the rest of the water over his head. And he cried out again, his voice filled with a perfect, believable panic. It's here. The water is here. My gourd is your only shelter. His tiny body shook. He held the gourd out with a desperation that was completely real. The hornets believed him. They buzzed with fear, rushing inside the hollow gourd. And with shaking hands, Anansi quickly sealed the lid with a bit of mud. His heart raced. It was done. He had outsmarted them not with a trick of strength or words, but with a trick of trust. He had created safety to take it away. That's managing your environment, creating safety where fear buzzes loudest. Finally, the last creature. Moesha, the invisible fairy. Her laughter was like wind chimes in the trees. Her footsteps were the soft rustle of leaves. Her power was unseen. How do you catch a ghost? How do you fight what you cannot even see? Anansi knew force would not work here. This was a test of his faith. A test of whether he could trust a plan with no guarantees. He spent hours crafting a small doll from a special, sacred wood. Then he carefully covered it in a thick, sticky gum he had collected from a tree. He placed a beautiful, ripe yam in the doll's hands, a fairy's favorite food. He placed the doll in a silent, empty part of the forest. And then he hid. He did not run. He did not wait in fear. He waited in perfect stillness. The forest held its breath. Hours passed. The sun crept across the sky. Nothing. Anansi's mind began to whisper again. You're a fool. Your plan is useless. This is impossible. But he remembered the promise he had made to himself. I will find a way. And just as the first doubt began to feel real, he heard it. A faint, almost silent, rustling of leaves right next to the doll. A sweet, magical laughter. Invisible fingers reached for the food. The doll did not move. The fairy pulled. The doll did not move. Anansi held his breath. The laughter suddenly turned to frustration. Moesha slapped the doll in anger. Her invisible hand stuck to the sticky gum. She pulled, but the doll remained still. She kicked. Her invisible foot stuck. Her laughter became a panicked, angry cry. Anansi, hidden behind a rock, could feel her struggle in the air. Her power was real, but the simple, sticky gum was stronger. She had been defeated not by force, but by a simple plan. The final task was done. Anansi had outwitted a ghost. And as he walked home, he realized The hardest battle had not been with the sky god's creatures. It had been with his own fear. That's making the first step sticky, so once you touch it, you're pulled in. Anansi returned to Onyankopon. His back was bent from the weight of his captives.
But his eyes shone.
Here, he said, the python, the leopard, the hornets, the fairy. The sky god stared, and for the first time he smiled. You are small, Onyankopon said, but you are greater than lions and elephants, because you have conquered not with force, but with your mind. And with that, Onyankopon gave him the golden box. But as Anansi carried it home, he realized the true prize was not the stories. The true prize was the strength he had discovered inside himself. So what does this mean for you? Your impossible wall is not real. It's only a collection of creatures. And like Anansi, you can conquer them one by one. The real challenge isn't willpower. It's a secret plan. You can remember it with the SPIDER method. S. Start small. Don't try to eat the elephant in one bite. Find your stick, your first tiny step. P. Prepare your environment. Remove the distractions that buzz in your head. Dig a pit for your phone, your busy work, your excuses. I. Ignore perfection. Just like Anansi's raw, messy labor, your first step doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be taken. D. Dig deep.
Stay still.
Put in the long, quiet work no one sees. That is where true victory is made.
E. Explua momentum.
Once you've taken that sticky first step, use the small win to pull yourself forward.
R. Reward yourself.
Every tiny victory is a chance to feel your own strength. Celebrate the small wins. The true prize isn't finishing the task. It's the person you become while doing it. The discipline, the confidence, the quiet knowledge. I faced fear and I won. So remember this. The fear is real, but the wall isn't. You came to this video feeling frozen, trapped before the wall. But now you know, the wall is only many creatures. And you are Anansi. You can trick them one by one, until the stories, the victories belong to you. Take one small step today.
Right now.
And for more lessons from nature's oldest therapist, subscribe to Nature Teaches Life. Because the stories now belong to you.